All right, welcome to class, everyone. You'll notice that there are markers and some yellow paper on your desk. We're going to do a group activity today that involves some sketching and some designing and engineering. So you're going to create your own technological invention today. But first, who can tell me what we did yesterday? Yes?
We talked about the history of agriculture and where it began and stuff like that.
Exactly. And we did a timeline activity where we looked at 10,000 years, where agriculture started over here at the very beginning, 10,000 years ago. And then we did a mathematical calculation, and we calculated how many years each tile would have to represent. And then so you stood where you were supposed to, and you represented an event. And remember, almost all the technological inventions we looked at, like fertilizers and tractors, everyone was standing over on this side of the room. And so that showed you that all these inventions have started to happen really fast in the past 100 years. So technology is coming along really quickly. But going back to the beginning, who can tell me what some of the first crops were? Mochi?
Grains.
Grains, that's right. What were you going to say?
Wheat.
Wheat. So that's a good example of one of the grains. What are some others?
Corn.
Corn is a grain. Yep, it's a seed crop.
Cotton.
Cotton, do we eat it? Oh, it's not a grain crop. That's for textiles, right?
Millet.
And one more?
I was going to say like squash and beans.
Beans are legumes, so they're pretty similar because they are seeds, but they're kind of a special category. And soy and some of them were some of the original crops, but wheat, rice, millet, sorghum, those sorts of things were the really beginning ones. And there is a reason for that. Why do you think grains were the first crop? What about grains makes them nice for food? Yes?
They last longer?
Exactly. How do you store wheat? You just pile it up, right? So you can basically pile this food up and let it sit there for a month or two if you keep it dry, and it's going to be good as long as you keep the rats away. So that is great. Grains were the first crop because they're easy to store, and also if you think about them, most grains are basically like grasses, right? And they kind of grow, and then a little tuft at the top where all the seeds are. So how do you think the original farmers harvested those seeds from the top of a grass?
By hand.
By hand, right? So imagine having to pick out each kernel of rice by hand and separate it from that grass. Does that sound fun? You have a comment?
Oh yeah, I think they also shook it like that to get it on that.
Very good. But you're in this group and you don't want to give your secrets away to this group. Because right now I'm going to have you start to design your own machine that is going to harvest grain for you. So rather than having to do it by hand, I want you to start to brainstorm ways, and I'll give you a little sketch here to help. So here's your grass plant, and then on the top you've got a little tuft and you've got a bunch of seeds in there. Now remember, seeds are kind of held in place by the old flower parts and the old stalk and all that. So you need to separate all that stuff from your seed, your wheat, your rice, whatever grain it is. If you want to pick one, that's fine, or if you just want to come up with a general machine, however you'd like. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes for your first brainstorm session. So I just want you to huddle together and start to talk about what sort of machine you're going to make that separates the grain from the plant. Yes?
Is this based on like the beginning of agriculture standards or like today? Like do we have tractors?
You can get sci-fi if you want. It's today. This is your machine.
Oh, okay.
So whatever you want.
We have a magical laser.
Like rice would fall through the mesh.
Yeah, but what's going to catch your seeds from all the leaves and dirt? Yeah, but dirt can still get through your holes.
Let's start. Calm down. we need something like to cut the area off or like pull up the permit.
Yeah, the little
tractor has like this.
Yeah.
And then once you have that, then you can
Yeah, you can have your rotator thing. There you go.
Tires.
Okay, you're gonna drop.
So it goes through there. And here's it's gonna collect them. Those are the things. And stuff. And they go up, and then they come through here, and they end up here. Those little rotators. Yeah, that green. This is like the corkscrew. And it's gonna get I am. And like, yeah, there's a gear. And then you have like some collection.
This is line.
So this is gonna shake out the seeds, right?
This is
So
gonna
where's
be
it?
like a tumbler.
No, this is just cutting the plant.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and then now we're gonna do this one.
Okay.
It's like this, it's gonna be like a.
Oh, like the stalk and stuff.
Well, you know how like, so on the tractors, they have like the rope, the little thing, and it goes up, and then it's coming up, it like shakes everything off of it. I think we need something that's gonna kinda like go up, like she's saying.
And then it's
It kinda
gonna.
shakes all the seeds off, and then they go into one
Yeah,
pile,
there we go.
and then it goes to like next
And then
separating
there's
bin in
dot-
there.
there's, like, lines for
And then the
seeds
next
with,
separating
like,
bin, it
the-
separates the, like,
okay.
the
And then like this is
corn
higher
stalk
up,
from,
like-
I don't know. It was very complicated when we were out there to understand what we're
Now do over here, do the circle, do over here, it's like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can do lines, like on the circle, cause that's where the circle is.
I say we just get a laser beam, laser it. Done. It magically separates. He said we can go sci-fi.
You use the word magic though.
Science.
No magic.
Not magic.
I become God and it works. I have a hammer.
Hearing some very good ideas though.
And then it falls
One
down.
thing to think about is whether you have to bring the grain there or is it on wheels? Can you drive it around?
Oh, this on
So
wheels.
we're looking at the attachment, yes. And the tractor's gonna, like, the tractor knows what to do. And then the bumper will be in the.
So it's gonna like shoot me into the bucket.
No, okay.
Like,
And then
art
it gets
teacher.
tumbled into the
Video.
middle, and then it gets.
Okay, it's been pretty close to 5 minutes, and I see that both groups have sketches. So this is a good point for us to do the next step here, which I'm going to take one person from each group. How about you and you? Are going to come up here with me. Meanwhile, the two groups, I want you to join together, and I want you to share each other's designs.
Okay,
So you two can leave those there. Yep.
Okay.
So you're going to share your designs, tell each other what you're working on, what you came up with. All right, so what I wanted to talk to you about was going back to hunters and gatherers.
Okay.
So you mentioned shaking thing. So this is the basic process that they would use. They would get like a tarp, like blanket sort of thing, and they would do that sort of shaking or like hit it with something. And so that the idea is that knocks the seed out. So then they pick up all the big pieces of the stalk and get rid of that. And then to finish it, because when you're hitting it, you're going to break up some of that little part and there's going to be chaff in there, right? So to get rid of the chaff, which is light, it's like a dried out stalk, they would throw the grain up and the wind would blow the chaff away.
Okay.
And then the grain is heavy enough that it just falls straight down and lands on the blanket. So I want you to think about that chaff, because if you just, I heard you say something about tumbling in your group and that sort of thing, so you have to think about initially getting it separated and then getting the little pieces that you don't want out.
Yeah.
So make sure you do that second step as well.
Awesome.
So we go back over to
Yep.
that.
Send you on back now. All right, so I gave them a little tip, and these groups have now shared and collaborated a little bit. So I'm going to give you a large sheet of paper, and I now want you to sketch out your design, show as much detail as you can feel free to make some small changes, talk about it a little more, see if you can improve your design before you start sketching.
What was your tip?
Flaky material that you definitely don't want in your grains. But
Because the gravity, maybe it would stick.
I feel like a lot of that would fall out.
well, usually like they do, but I don't know, he just.
I don't think it will.
But he wanted it, like, it sounds like it stays with it once it gets separated from the stalk.
And it's like, what he's saying is it's like, so like your seeds are here, and it's like right there on top of your seeds, so like the flower is still there holding it down. From here.
Yeah. The way you described what they did
Yeah, because the peanuts, I mean, peanuts only fly a little bit, but they're on that little bouncer thing to dry them out.
Or they can do the flip. What he was saying is they would like thrown up in the air and then like and then the grain would be heavy enough to just fall back.
Well then, if we're in this part, it's gonna shake it off anyways. And it should stick, like, when it just starts spinning really, really fast, it's gonna shake off to the side, so it'll all be up here, and your seeds will fall down. You know what I'm saying? Gravity's gonna take it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll start redrawing what we have there.
Yeah, just don't put my squeegees in there.
What is this? Sorry.
This is the front view of it. And then like the little T, little things that right in the middle of a certain thing and the thing that's gonna catch the grain.
Got it.
Super.
Okay.
Is there anything else that I need to add to this one?
If you want, you could do it like
I
this.
think you're good.
Is this an increment or is this a whole thing?
So I need to put it, well, it's gonna be on the front.
Why don't you
Yeah,
just
it's
make,
gonna be the front of the
yeah, just the front of the tractor.
Well, I
Yeah.
have like a
combine
grain that
the whole thing, and
then
then other
yeah.
times you buy things that just stick on it and then it's all good. If you wanna draw a second layer of seed, you can. We have the seed that catch the grain or catch the stalks.
That's what our grain falls through, because this is like a big cylinder thing that rotates the whole way around, right?
Yeah. When that's rotated, it should push up the other thing that you were talking about.
Well, if you wanna get
Because then it's gonna be
technical,
lighter.
if you wanna get technical, whenever we rotate, it's gonna come down. And then whenever it comes down, we can have the,
Just put like some air in there and it could blow it away.
this, we can say that the seeds in up here.
Yeah,
We
are
can
we
have
wanting
the dirt to fall through these holes or wanting the
No, the
grain to
dirt
fall?
should
The dirt should fall
off
out
here.
as well as that stuff, I wanna say, because that's gonna be rotating and breaking up stuff no matter what. And then once it ends up here, you're basically getting rid of all the, it's like everything else is gonna stay in here except for the seeds.
Very neat. I like your multiple views. It's a good
Well, it's
idea.
kind of confusing because it's so hard to draw like where the grain is actually collecting.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
It's very
So
hard to
there's gotta
explain
be
when you're
large
working on a
enough-
tractor and
there's gonna be large enough.
Yeah. Because what this is gonna do is when it's spinning, it's only gonna pick up like the top or the flower. You're good.
Cause we're only getting that top.
I think I've seen one of these before.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Good deal, baby.
Machine movement, that's all I got.
Okay, it's been about 5 minutes again. So if you could wrap up your drawings just a little bit.
Well, it's gonna, what it's gonna do is it's just gonna pick it up from the bottom, like, so.
Well, wait,
It's not gonna,
this is gonna be your.
yeah, and it's gonna pick it up.
And it's gonna cut. I thought you were just gonna cut it in. That's what I was thinking. Cause then all you would have is that. Instead of like that. But I don't
Yeah,
know
but I
what
don't think you can do that.
Okay.
You can't make a difference when it's just gonna cut the top. 'Cause they're all
We're
different lengths.
going to wrap up our activity now.
It's a very small piece of our paper, but.
Let's have this group come first. In case you want to add a couple more. Didn't seem like you, or maybe you were finished. Excellent. So let's have this whole group come on up, show us your sketch, and if someone could give us a rundown on how it works.
Okay, this is a sketch. It's a tractor, and it's collecting the grains, and the grains are going on the conveyor belts and going up and onto this collector. And then on this, we have two shakers, two mesh that shake up the seeds. And we also have an air blower going through between the first mesh and the second level of mesh to blow off the stalks and other debris. And then the second mesh is to make sure that it's debris free and then into the
Very nice. Let's give them a round of applause. So I can tell that you're perhaps a bit familiar with some agricultural technology.
No, I came up with this all on my own.
What would that machine be called in real life?
Something like a combine.
A combine. So why is it called a combine?
It takes a combination.
Well, it actually combines two different steps. First, it harvests the grain, right? It cuts it all out with like the teeth thing at the front there, and then it threshes it. So if I didn't explain this word well earlier, threshing is when you're removing the grain from the stalk. So that's the process we're really working on here. So you also combined in harvesting. So now you have a much more efficient agricultural tool there because it does two things for you. Let's hear yours. Come on up.
We all do
I
it?
thought there's only a couple people who do it, so you're a mastermind.
Okay, well, basically, we just created something that gets like put on the front of the tractor, like the combine head. So like the tractor would be back here. This little area right here, purple signifies the way the machine would be moving, and blue is the machine, and red is where the grains would go. Here there would be like teeth that would kind of do like this to cut the grain. Then this is like a corkscrew thing that's gathering it into the middle, and that process would probably be rough enough that the chaff and all the trash is kind of shaken off. And then inside of a giant cylindrical spinning thing with holes on it,
Kind of like a dryer.
yeah, it'll get the actual grain beaten off of whatever is left of the stalk, and it would collect into this thing below and be stored toward the back. Yeah.
Very nice. Excellent. Another great design. So we had kind of two different techniques there. One with two meshes and a fan to kind of blow off the chaff that gets through there. And this one used kind of rotating, some centrifugal force maybe. So very nice work, both groups. So if we wanted to continue with this project and go really in depth, we would maybe watch some videos, which we're about to do. Check out what other people have made and designed, and then revisit our designs again. Make sure they're really what we want them to be, finalize them, and then we could actually build a small project and try to make our own thresher. So that's what you're going to see in some of these videos. So this first one uses a ceiling fan. I thought this was really neat and creative. There we go. So you could tell this is a fairly cheap, kind of small scale home one if you wanted to do it. And you'll see in a second that while this paddle does a great job with the initial separation, when they zoom in, check out all the chaff and stuff on the bottom. So that's why I had this second phase of our design process was to help you think about that chaff and how to get rid of that sort of stuff. And I think you both came up with excellent solutions.
Very innovative.
Pretty neat. These could be science fair projects, SAEs. So this one's a lot more work gone into that. Involves a lot of carpentry, and there's a little box at the bottom like yours had. There it is. So even with that one, more sophisticated design, there's still some chaff in there that gets through. So how might he be able to improve his design to get less chaff?
Maybe we had some kind of like screen it had to go through, that only the grain could fall through and not like.
So a tighter mesh screen. You saw how long those stalks of the chaff were, right? It was like almost half a foot there. So that'd be easy to get out with a tighter mesh screen for sure.
Area.
And this was the last one. A pedal-powered thresher. So this was actually a high school project. It's definitely sophisticated design there because they're using metal and some things that would be pretty hard to put together in machine. Takes a lot more resources than the other ones that we saw. I'm not sure what grain they're using there either. It almost looks like birdseed or something to me, but I'm not sure. So again, probably up here some sort of paddle thing like the other ones, and then lower there was something like the mesh screen or something that spins like yours. So. All right, so just kind of reflect back for a minute on what we did today and think about what you learned, but also the skills that you practiced, your collaborative groups and your sketching. So does someone want to tell me what they learned in their own words? Yes.
Sometimes it can be hard to like try to think outside of what you already know to come up with new ideas.
True. That's a good point. Thinking outside the box. But that's an important part of creative problem solving. So do you feel like you almost knew too much to design something different?
Because if what you have works, I mean, there might be something better out there, but it's hard to think, like, if you have this works, why would you want to create something new? So it's hard to, like, think outside that dynamic.
It's not for don't fix it.
Yes?
It also was hard to, or not hard, but it wasn't our first instinct to think about all the little details, like having the stalks and stuff in. It was a learning experience.
For sure. So perhaps it would have helped during our brainstorming to kind of list the steps of the process or something like that. Make sure you get them all in there when you put your design together. Good call. Great. Well, thanks for a good lesson.